This is Brian Meador from East Carolina University. You are listening to the Sports Objective, the official, unofficial podcast of the Pirates.
Objective, another great show tonight, and with us right now, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from LaGrange, North Carolina, and that will be Kyle Barber. How are you, man?
What's going on, Dave? As we sit here on Tuesday, the week of week 0, getting ready for the start of college football season. Are you ready?
I'm so. I tell you, I don't think I've been more excited for football season. This has been the first one in a long time. I think we maybe have to go back to the Shane Carden era, I would say, since I've been this excited about we're getting ready for football. Bubba Rosenbaum, what are you up to tonight?
I doubt folks will be able to hear me, Dave, but as you can tell, at a baseball game, taking in low A game between the Kannapolis Cannonballers and the Lynchburg Hillcats, the low A affiliate of the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah, the best name in all of. I'm just anyway. I'll leave it alone.
It's not bad. I mean, I think it's stupid they changed it from the Indians too, but I think Guardians was a good choice. If you've got to change your name, it has the same ring to it. Guardians, Indians, so it's better than football team.
Well, we're going to change that, but that's a whole nother show, as they say. Bubba, right now, one of our favorites, going all the way back to 2018. He's been with us for 3 years now. We appreciate his friendship and coming on the show again, right?
Bubba said he's still at that baseball game, Dave.
Yeah, so with us right now, we have Chad Brendel. Man, how are you? Good to see you. I know that 24/7 with the Bearcats, Cincinnati, looking to be a playoff team this year. We'll talk about those scenarios, but how are things going, man, there with the university? And I know it's got to be a lot of excitement for the 21 campaign.
Yeah, I'm tired. We are fortunate enough that can you guys hear me? Am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, it's good.
Hello? You got me?
We got maybe a little bit of lag, yeah.
Are fortunate. Okay, no worries. We are fortunate here at Cincinnati. Luke Fickell lets us up until the game week starts. We're pretty much allowed at every minute of every practice. So we've been at camp the past couple weeks. They're back on campus now because school started yesterday. But we have been fortunate enough to be able to check in and catch everything that's been.
We got a little technical difficulties here with Chad. His audio's cutting in and out.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a lag, and then looks like it's frozen up there. So maybe we can get him back. Let's see if I can.
A good start to the show.
Yeah, very good start for the show, especially when
put him backstage and then see if he can get his.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
See if he can get his internet connection cleared up.
Yep, there we go. And we got to thank you, Bubba Rosenbaum. I'm trying to do the same thing at the same time. Appreciate you, buddy, for doing that. And we'll try to get Chad back and a little bit of nothing like great broadband.
Hey, yeah, you know what? That's what happens when you're doing a live show and you're relying on the internet and everybody's using Wi-Fi and and it's just as technology evolves, it's still just nothing's as reliable as a wired connection. But nobody wants to use that anymore.
You're right about that. So he's signing out. He'll come back in and hopefully we can off to the races. But Kyle, I tell you what, man. By the way, we got a mystery guest coming up in the second half hour. So we'll do that.
Yeah,
it's like a wrestling card.
I got some interesting topics to talk about in the meantime. Lots of rumors going around on the expansion front.
Okay.
Dave Wamstadt, former Pitt head coach, now Fox College football analyst, claims that he's got inside information that the ACC is going to take West Virginia, the Big Ten is going to take Iowa State and Kansas, and the Pac-12 is going to take Oklahoma State and Kansas State. which seems rather odd. But I don't know. Dave Wannstedt has always been half an idiot to me. So even when he was a football coach. So I don't know how much reliable that source is, even though he does work for Fox and he former head coach of Pittsburgh, former NFL coach also.
Welcome back, Chad Brendel. Welcome back in, and we'll get you. I tell you what, man, we're very excited about the season. But Kyle was just talking about, I don't know if you heard that backstage about the rumor Dave Wannstedt for Fox Sports, the football analyst, said about the expansion.
Yeah, I disagree with Kyle here. I don't think Dave Wannstedt's a half idiot. I think he's the whole thing.
I agree with you. I hope he's right. But
I do too. But what's he ever been right about?
That means TCU, Baylor, and Texas Tech to the American, baby. Woo! It's too good to be true.
I don't, you know what, at this point, you could tell me that, I mean, anything right now, because it's amazing. And then it's amazing how all these pundits were saying Florida State and Clemson are going to the SEC until they found out there was a $390 million buyout. They'd have to pay her, $400 million. I mean, as great as those two schools are and how much money they have, then, man, I'll tell you what. And
we'll get
yes right now.
Yeah, we'll get on to the Bearcats, but the ACC, Big Ten, Pac-12 alliance was formed today. I don't know how, Dave. I know you are a little bit, Chad. I don't know if you are, but they're back in the day, back in the '80s, when the territories in professional wrestling were dying out, the AWA, World Class Championship Wrestling in Memphis, USWA, all got together and formed an alliance to try to take on Vince and the WWE. And it lasted about, 6 months. That's about how long I think this alliance is going to last. It's going to be every conference for itself.
Yeah, well, they're not working together. Yeah. No chance.
But what if they do? What if they do? With the very fact, if you think about it, they do have a lot of leverage. If the three of them really do stick together.
The problem is, Dave, at some point, one of them is going to side with the SEC on something, and the other two aren't. And that's when that's when the alliance is going to be over.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have been working together for 100 years. So that one, I can see it makes sense, but there's nothing that says that the ACC is going to always agree with what those two think. And I think you're right, Kyle. The minute that there's something that's better for the ACC that doesn't include the Big Ten and the Pac-12, sorry guys, we didn't actually sign anything. So we're going to do what's best for us. The one good thing I think that can come from this is if it prevents ESPN from having exclusive broadcast rights to the college football playoff. I think taking it to the open market is what needs to happen. And I think you'll make a lot more money that way. And if that's the end result of this, then maybe it's not, as silly as it looks on paper.
One thing I don't like about the alliance there is the Pac-12 seems to be anti-12 team expansion to the playoff.
That's crazy.
It makes no sense.
Or at least that verbiage of the 6 tie race conference champions. So hopefully that still happens. The 12-team playoff is something that needs to happen. To me, it would, no matter what happens with expansion and conference realignment, to me, that's a game changer for the so-called Group of 5 conferences. Because Cincinnati would have been in the playoffs last year.
UCF.
Cincinnati would be a shoe-in for really all Cincinnati would have to do. You wouldn't even have to go undefeated. Cincinnati loses one game there in the playoffs this year.
Yep.
So, I mean, it would be a game changer.
No doubt about it. Chad, speaking of the Bearcats, I tell you what, you've got a good-looking team, obviously coming back. You've got a great coach. Speaking of the playoffs, got a strong chance. I know you guys don't want me to jinx it, but it's good for every team if Cincinnati makes obviously the playoffs, except for Thanksgiving weekend. That's a whole nother story. But just kidding. But as far as Cincinnati, seriously, with the league, that will be talk about groundbreaking and, like Kyle said, a game changer to have Cincinnati representing. They should already be in just like UCF, and then you guys got screwed last year. I'm tired of seeing the conference getting screwed when it really is a power league. Even I hate that term, but I mean, what does the American have to do? We talk about it a lot on here, but it's to keep the beating that drum of we are a great league with basketball, baseball, football. I mean, we've got a great record against the Power Five, so to speak. I mean, we've done everything. Our resume is top notch.
Unfortunately, I don't know that there's anything they can do because it's the autonomous five have been granted autonomy. They get to do whatever they want. And if they don't want anybody, if they don't want any new kids in their clubhouse, then they don't have to let any new kids in their clubhouse, which I think is stupid. I think if you're going to separate yourself like that, there needs to be some kind of metric, some kind of way that somebody else can kick down the door. But until that happens, I mean, I'm over getting frustrated about it because there's no real path that you can do anything. And unless this round of realignment gets fired up and really shakes up the entire landscape, I think it's unfortunately just kind of where we're at right now.
And Chad, one thing I've always thought in terms of the playoff, and in this day and age of the kids have rights, name, image, and likeness. Let's let them transfer anywhere they want without having to sit out a year. Let's buy them cars and houses. And how about is it not unfair that about 50% of them have no real chance to go to the playoff? I mean, how about that? Why is that not being brought up? You want to be fair to the players. Well, what about the players at Cincinnati? What about the players at East Carolina? What about the players at Boise State? Is it not unfair that you're telling them that they can't go to the playoff?
Now you're using that tricky thing that they call logic.
Yeah.
And the Power Five is not interested in that thing. It's only what's fair is only fair to what's good for them. And
right.
they genuinely do not care about anybody else.
Yeah,
that's why this whole Big 12 thing is hilarious to me, because in 2016, they deemed that Cincinnati and Central Florida and the top teams in the American, quote unquote, didn't move the needle. Well, now without Texas and Oklahoma, the needle's broken, guys. None of you move the needle. So the irony there has not been lost on me.
Yeah, and Chad, and I know we're not really focusing on the Bearcats. We're on a roundabout way, but the one thing that we've been talking about ad nauseum here on the podcast is, to me, if I'm the Big 12, if those 8 stay together, if nobody comes to rescue any of them, to me, the answer is a merger with the American. If you take the 11 members of the American, you take those 8, you add BYU, you got a 20-team league that you 2 10-team divisions. You could really make that appealing to ESPN. A lot of major markets in there, a lot of big schools, a lot of interesting matchups. I think that's where your money is, and it's just going to take some people in the Big 12 to lose some egos. I don't think adding 4
Good
teams,
luck with that.
Well, here's the thing. I think if they add 4 teams from the American, let's say they had Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, Memphis, I think the payout will end up being around $14-15 million. I mean, it's a nice increase. Right. It's a nice increase for you guys, but will they maintain autonomy status or power status? And that's not even going to get them back to that $20 million. I think a merger, like I'm talking about, would easily pay out $20 million per team.
Yeah, but is it that much? They're losing so much. They're not going to see 14. The difference between 14 and 20 million.
Well, I think also power status, though. I think if you have that 20-team league, there's no way you can keep that from being a power league. I mean, there's no way. You look at that 20-team league. Now you got all the schools in the American. You got those 8 plus BYU. There's no way you can argue that that's not a power league.
And you could break it down. Hey, Kyle, I had another idea. Why don't you break it down kind of like when you have the NFL? You could have 4, 5, like 4 or 5 teams in each division.
Yeah, I think that's what you'd have to do. 2 10-team divisions isn't going to work. You'd have to do pods of 5 teams or something like that.
Well, you can do 2 10-team divisions. You have 9.
But there'd be no crossover.
There'll be no. Well, yes, championship games crossover.
20 teams is a lot.
Well, my first idea initially was 18. You take the 10 all sports members from the American, then the 8 from the Big 12. But then you're leaving Navy out, and to me, you don't leave your servicemen out just because they're football only. So
the problem with Navy, though, Kyle, we're starting to find out like why it doesn't work for them in a power conference, in a bigger conference, because after 2 or 3 years of playing Navy, you kind of get a pattern on how to stop that triple option, or at least slow it down significantly. I mean,
everybody else figures it out except for East Carolina. It's been a decade we haven't figured out how to stop Navy.
We've only beat them once, Chad. Only once.
And we were playing them before we were in the conference. Those non-conference games. But I get what you're saying. So we'll scale it back to 18. To me, 18 is doable. You got 2 9-team divisions. That's 8 division games, 1 crossover game, and 3 non-conference games.
Possible. That's more possible. I think that 20 is just. I think the other problem I think when you get to 20 is you run into kind of what the Big East didn't have 20, but they had 16. The old Big East before it died. You just have so many people that don't agree on any. This section wants this and this section wants that.
That was a very unique situation, though, with the Catholic basketball schools.
Yeah.
I think probably you still ran into it with the WAC when they were with 16, and they were all sports members. But I think then we'll go with 18. We'll exclude Navy and Wichita. We'll go with the 10 all sports members and then the 8 remaining members of the Big 12. Let's do it. There you got 18-team league. Let's do it. Let's go.
The Big East can have Wichita. They don't fit,
exactly.
But they can have them.
I halfway wonder if they would, if Kansas would go to the Big East and put football independent.
No, that would be. I think that the Big East. I mean, I think as far as Kansas is concerned, there's a lot of great basketball in our league. I know that they have. Speaking of egos, and I'm not anti-Kansas, but I know they're thinking they're great and they're this and that.
Do you guys think Kansas would push for UConn if the Big 12 stays together? Those 8. Do you think they would push for UConn as an all sports member just so they can get their basketball?
I don't think UConn cares about football.
No, but I mean, they may be interested in joining the league with Kansas.
Maybe that's a lot of travel.
Yeah,
you talk about West Virginia being on an island.
I guess it depends on
a whole different animal. Yeah,
I guess it depends on who comes with them. I mean, I don't know. I just could see Kansas, at least bringing that up.
And Kansas probably wants in the Big Ten.
That's what they want, yeah. But I want in the SEC,
right? West Virginia wanted in the ACC for 30 years and never got it.
Well, Dave Wanstead says it's just a matter of days away.
Listen to Dave Wanstead. Okay, Dave. Let me say from one Dave to another. There's one thing that's missing from that whole thing, and I'm not disrespecting West Virginia, but it comes down to one thing: money. And they've said this time around with expansion, they're looking what does that team, being West Virginia, bring to the ACC. And I'm not being disrespectful to them. I think they're great for it, and I would love to have them, obviously, in the American or if we're in the Big 12 or whatever. But I'm not anti-West Virginia. That's the ACC mindset coming from. They were talking about a team would have to give them bring in 76 or 77 million is what I heard. I think that's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, you got the entire state of West Virginia that I don't know how many eyeballs that is, but everybody in West Virginia is either West Virginia or a Marshall fan.
I went to Marshall, so no Marshall slander.
There you go. Well, none coming. just hope we take care of them. Just hope we take care of them. September 18th. Did not like their head coaching hire.
I didn't like their head coaching fire.
No, it was odd. I think that I'm almost positive they thought they were going to get. Oh God, Chad, help me out.
Byron Leftwich, right?
Leftwich, yes. I'm almost positive they thought they were going to get Leftwich, but I think he's enjoying coaching Tom Brady too much.
Yeah,
I don't think they could pay him.
That's the way I was going to say, the money.
Yeah, well, and that may be the case also, but sometimes you take jobs for a little bit less money just because you want the opportunity to be a head coach and set your alma mater. But when you're in a situation where he's
got it pretty good right now.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a great gig, man. and Tampa Bay, great city. You've got, like Kyle said, with Tom Brady, you just won the Super Bowl. You have a chance that, Tom Brady's smart as a guy because he reduces his salary every time so they can get great players, where other sports stars in other leagues don't do that. I mean, the guy is I got to give it to him. He's a winner, 7-time Super Bowl champion, and now with Tampa Bay. So, hey, and you got to ride that train as long as you can, right? If you're Byron Leftwich.
Yeah, because who knows where it stops? You get 2 or 3 Super Bowls under your belt as an offensive coordinator.
He has a
now
job
you're talking NFL head coach.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Chad, back to the Bearcats real fast here.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. we talked earlier about them making the playoffs, and the tall task, and, would the powers that be even allow that to happen? You guys, you have some opportunities. You got Notre Dame, you got Indiana. What do you think you guys would have to do besides the obvious, going undefeated? Do you think that would things have to fall around you just right? Would Notre Dame have to have a 11-1, 10-2 season? Indiana needs to be a contender in the Big Ten. What do you think needs to happen for you guys besides going undefeated to be in the playoffs?
I think those 2 things you just mentioned, if they can win at Indiana and at Notre Dame, it is going to be critical for Indiana and Notre Dame to both have really good seasons, because as we saw last year, the closer you get to the finish line, the more the autonomous 5 wants to move the goalposts.
Oh, yeah.
And say, you're not as good as you think you are. So if they beat Indiana and Notre Dame, and let's say Notre Dame goes 8-4 and Indiana 7-5, they're going to say, yeah, Cincinnati went on the road to Indiana and Notre Dame, but those weren't very good Indiana and Notre Dame teams. So that doesn't prove anything for Cincinnati. If you're one of only 2 losses, or you're Notre Dame's only loss, and Indiana's, 9-3 and a contender in the Big Ten East throughout the season, then you've got some leg to stand on. Then you've got some ability to say, look, we've gone toe-to-toe and proven we can play with anybody. I think it's also important this offense has to take another step, because style points are going to matter for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
If you're playing a bunch of, 27-14, 27-17 games, they're going to again look at that and say, well, they're struggling to pull away from teams in the American. And
it's
the American,
it's just the style of football y'all play.
Yeah. Well, but with Ritter in year 5, you've got a legitimate NFL receiver in Alec Pierce on the outside. You've got legitimate NFL prospects at tight end and Josh Wiley and Leonard Taylor. You've got Jerome Ford, who transferred from Alabama. If you remember the Peach Bowl, Ford is the kid that had the 80-yard touchdown where he ran away from Georgia's 5-star defensive backs. You've got enough talent on offense this year that it should be, one of the best years offensively in UC football history. All of a sudden, if your defense is still elite like it has been, and you're now you're beating teams 47-10 regularly, then that makes that statement that, we can hang with just about anybody. And if you can run the table and get the style points, you're going to make it very difficult for that committee to say with a straight face Cincinnati doesn't belong.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I don't put a lot of stock into. They may. I think they know the brand of football you guys play.
Yeah,
and think it's just a BS excuse.
Well, it's an out.
Yeah,
let's talk about it in reality. It's an excuse. But
yep.
if you give them outs, as we learned last year, if you give them outs, they will take them.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the bigger key is, 1, Notre Dame and Indiana having good seasons.
Yeah.
And 2, what's the rest of the American going to look like this year? Will there be somebody else that steps up? Will the team Cincinnati's playing in the conference championship game be a top 25 team also?
Yeah.
Will there be other times throughout the year where there's an opportunity to have another team in the top 25. I think that's key too. If the American has a down year, then that'll hurt you guys big.
Yeah.
I think as well. I look at the American this year, and I don't necessarily see a team that I'm like, all right, that's for sure the number 2 team. I think UCF could be really good, but you got a brand new staff. I think Houston could take a big step forward this year, but they haven't done it yet. I think SMU could be good again. But then I think Memphis is going to take a step back. I think East Carolina is going to take a big step forward, but nowhere near to the point where we're going to be a top 25 contender. So what is the league going to look like overall? It's a big question, and I think a big piece of the puzzle for Cincinnati.
SMU is probably the most interesting to me because their offense has been there, but their defense has been trash. And bringing in Jim Leavitt,
yeah,
he has a track record as a really good defensive coach. If he can get that defense even average and they answer their quarterback question, I think SMU could really be dangerous. We've talked about this a lot on our shows. Central Florida is very interesting to me because Dylan Gabriel is not a read option quarterback, and Gus Malzahn is a read option to death head coach. So is he going to be able to use Dylan Gabriel to the best of his abilities? And also, if you go back and look at Dylan Gabriel's numbers when they have faced defenses that have made it tough on him, his numbers are very pedestrian. He's a 50% passer. His interceptions are way up. If he can't hit his first read through their old scheme, he's struggled. What's he going to look like running this Malzahn offense? I know Malzahn says, they're going to keep it similar to what they've done in the past. Coaches don't change their stripes, man. That's just not something that's comfortable for Gus Malzahn. I don't know that Gabriel's the right quarterback for him. So I think that's where they're going to be really interesting because are they going to be able to, what's always been so prolific about UCF is that no matter the score, no matter the situation, if they get a stop, they can put 2 touchdowns on you in 3 minutes.
Yep.
And are they going to have that ability?
Who did Gus bring in as his DC down at UCF? I don't even know.
I'd have to look it up. Hold on.
But, you mentioned Leavitt moving over to SMU. Jim Leavitt's a guy who, when he was at South Florida as a head coach, I never really respected how good he was. He's not my kind of coach. I like cerebral head coaches. Leavitt is such a rah, get fired up guy. But Leavitt, I never gave him enough credit. And now seeing him back in the game as defensive coordinators, now at multiple stops over the last few years, he's a hell of a football coach.
Randy Shannon is the defensive coach at Central Florida.
Right.
I'm not huge on Randy Shannon.
No, me neither.
And with Leavitt, I think Leavitt just as a head coach, he's one of those head coaches where as soon as you hire him, the clock is ticking for his style to expire. Yeah. Right. But you don't have that problem as a defensive coordinator with him. And I think he's a brilliant defensive mind.
Yeah, he is.
And of all the hires in the American this offseason, I thought Leavitt, that is a brilliant hire for SMU because they desperately needed that type of guy running their defense to get that thing back in line.
And he's really aggressive on defense. And
yeah,
to me, when you're running an air raid, if you're going to be successful on defense, the best way, and I've seen it be successful playing back. We had some success with Rick Smith here as defensive coordinator when Lincoln Riley was offensive coordinator, and we played a cover 2 and kept everything in front of us. But if you got the talent to do it, if you can be aggressive and then force turnovers and get that ball back to that offense, sometimes it's not even about stops. It's about, can you force a bunch of turnovers, and Leavitt's defense can do that. And that could work really well for SMU.
All right, guys, we have a comment. If you have a comment on Facebook, Twitter, or obviously YouTube, put it up there. Johnny Robertson, one of our fan favorites. Ritter almost never threw deep successfully last year. His arm seems pretty strong enough, but he seemed to sail the deep balls. Are the Bearcats going to try to stretch the field more this season?
Yes. That has been the main focus of camp, and they've been successful doing it. I think last year one thing that hurt is Alec Pierce was hurt for a portion of the season. That's really their take the top off guy, and the guy that on the outside, he's 6'3", he's got a 40-inch vertical, and he runs, a sub 4.4. That's the guy that they need on the field, and they were much different when Pierce was on the field for them. I think Ritter, the one thing that he did this offseason is he went out and worked with Jordan Palmer. And if you followed how Jordan Palmer has evolved his training of quarterbacks, it's a lot more now on training the body, training the core, so that you're not just throwing with your arm. And I think that was a problem Ritter maybe had last year, as he was trying to do everything with just his arm strength instead of using his footwork to set up, making good throws instead of just making throws. And we've seen a pretty significant difference there in camp. And, he's got one of the best secondaries in the country that he's throwing against every day. So to see him have some success against them through camp this year, I think you get a better look. We talked about this on our podcast last week with Dan Horde, the voice of the Bearcats. He not only has to get better on the deep balls, but he also needs to make that final jump up into the 70% completion range. He finished right above 66% last year, which is very good. But if you get up in that 72% range on passes completed, and you've got guys now, another 2 names to watch out on the outside that are young guys that are in their second year now in the system, are Tyler Scott and Jayden Thompson. Jayden Thompson was a 4-star wide receiver prospect out of the Chicago area that was UC flipped him from Illinois at the last minute on signing day. And then Tyler Scott is the fastest kid on the team who ran a 4.29 40. So you've got those guys at field wide receiver now. Now you've got somebody on the boundary that can take you deep in Pierce, but you've also got 2 guys on the field side across from him that can beat you over the top as well. And I think that just gives them a much more diverse offensive attack in terms of being able to push the ball down the field.
And now we have a mystery guest. This is kind of like for those of you that are talking about the Lions and WWE and all the things with us right now. Former Greenville Mayor Alan Thomas. How are you, my friend? A great time. Glad to have you on the show.
AT, can you turn your speakers down a little bit?
Hang on, guys. All right.
I didn't know it was going to be like a dignitary was going to join us. I'm underdressed.
You're the mayor of the Bearcats, so it's good to be in your presence here.
Thank you, Alan.
It's great to be here, Kyle. Good to see you and hear you and Dave. And man, just good to be talking college football in a reasonably normal environment again, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're glad to have AT a part of. I think we could announce now AT, if it's okay, part of our coverage for ECU football, basketball, baseball, whatever he wants to do. AT is here. I mean, when the mayor wants to be with you, you got to get with the mayor, right?
Only if he can figure out his speakers.
Working on it, Kyle. We'll get through day one technical difficulties, and hopefully we'll be perfection the next time we get around. But it's great to hear you guys talking about Ritter and just what a talent he really is. But it's not just a one-man show, guys. I mean, Cincinnati's the real deal. You guys are a national contender, have a chance to crash the party this year, and hopefully you take a few of us along with you, and hopefully we surprise some folks here out of Greenville as well. But you guys, Chad, you guys are in a great position to do some damage this year.
Hey, by the way, we have – go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, we joke about Holton Ahlers completing his 14th year at ECU. But I have to imagine that's how everybody else feels about Desmond Ritter.
I was going to say, two of a kind. Both those guys could go straight to their AARP card right after get their diploma here in a year. But great to have that kind of talent sticking around, in a very talented league. And you've got a lot of pieces around them they're going to really make some noise this year.
Hey,
yeah,
AT,
I mean, go ahead.
Sorry. I've already been brought up to chat. Here's a scenario I have for you, AT. You're going to be in the stands on Thanksgiving weekend. You have a top 10, maybe, who knows, Cincinnati team. You have the Pirates fighting for a bowl. You have the Bearcats fighting for a playoff spot, and Dowdy Ficklin on Thanksgiving weekend. Do you feel that? Do you feel that passion? Do you feel that energy, Rowdy Dowdy? I mean, that place could be electric. You've seen a lot of great games here, my friend.
Well, there are a lot of good teams in this league, but one of the things at which we stand behind no one else is just a phenomenal support and crowd that we have at ECU. When we say there's 51 or 20 to 52,000 screaming fans, I mean, when things are on, there's no place that rocks like our house. And we've got some good, some great programs in the league. But that's a position I would love to be in. And we're starting to get, even though Coach Houston is starting to build something here and get some great depth, we still got to prove it on the field. Since he changed gears a couple of years ago, and we have got the talent, the depth now. COVID's been tough on a lot of people, but I think for East Carolina has actually allowed us to accelerate the depth that we needed up front on both sides of the ball. If you can't block up front, if you can't control the line of scrimmage, you can't compete in this league.
No doubt about it. Hey, AT, speaking of Cincinnati and the offensive defensive line, when Houston took over as a coach, it didn't look like the offensive defensive line of the American. And now you're starting to see guys that really can compete at the level of American against not to say that we're at the level of Cincinnati right now, but we look more like that of a team that can compete and be competitive versus just getting mopped up every week like you guys we've had to deal with for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's having that depth up front where you can rotate in 3 or 4 guys every series or so and keep your guys fresh. I mean, that's the problem in the league. I mean, you have 2 or 3 teams, Cincinnati and UCF and some others that by the 3rd or 4th quarter, I mean, you don't have anything left. You can compete and have a few turnovers in the first half and get into the second half, but we have to get to that upper echelon along with what Cincy and some of the other guys have been doing. It's about developing depth. And yesterday I had the privilege of attending the coaches' luncheon with the Pirate Club, and it was about close to 400 people there, and no media there. So it was just great to hear Coach Houston and hear the coordinators, talk about, for the first time since being here, they trust a second teamer, they trust a third teamer, they trust some younger kids coming in and making. We were I think the second youngest team in all of NCAA last year.
Yep.
And we haven't. You don't just suddenly go to the most senior laden team in 1 year. But there is some cautious optimism there for some great depth. But you got to prove it on the field. We get tested right out of the gate up in Charlotte next Thursday against a very experienced and underappreciated Appalachian State team, which I don't think has lost a bowl game since I had a mullet. So anyway, that's been a few years ago. But it's
do you have pictures of that, Mayor? Do you have pictures of that?
I do. There's one in the student center on campus. If you want to go take a mystery tour, back when I was student vice president a long time ago, I had party in the back but business in the front, 24/7.
Billy Ray Cyrus, baby. Achy breaky heart.
Chad knows nothing about that. I'm sure he had that look back in the day.
I'm from Kentucky. I'm aware.
Where are you, Chad? Are you from northern Kentucky, the suburbs of Cincinnati?
I am. I'm from one of the suburbs of Cincinnati, but I've been in Kentucky most of my life, so I've known more than a few people with mullets. Not me personally, but others.
I see you as a Brian Bosworth type guy with the stripes on the side. Yeah. Just a guy, just very intense.
I've been lined up before.
Yeah, back in the day with eye black. That's totally you, Chad.
I'm only about 5'9", and back in those days, I was about 130 pounds. So I would have needed the neck roll to match my mouth. I was pretty mouthy back then, so
they called you the fighting schnauzer. Playing nose guard at 130. That's awesome.
No doubt. With as far as Cincinnati, what about the defensive side of the ball? You guys are looking really, really good, right, Chad?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a breakout, and he's already, there's a lot of places, most places have him as a second-team All-American, but I think this is going to be a breakout year for Myjai Sanders, the defensive end out of Florida. He has been almost unblockable throughout camp. He actually today, he's found creative ways. Obviously, the quarterback's not live. And he gets to the quarterback so much that he's done, sometimes he'll raise his arm and run past the quarterback so everybody knows, like, that would have been a sack. He got in trouble Saturday at the scrimmage. He got to Ritter, and Ritter kind of was scrambling and put the ball down, and Sanders swiped at it and knocked it out for a sack fumble, and Fickell afterwards said, hey, don't mess with the money. So he got scolded a little bit there. So today he gets to the quarterback and he lays down and puts his head on his arm and in like a pose at Desmond Ritter's feet. Like, I'm just here waiting for you. Like, let me know when you're done. So he's been a character throughout camp and has had a lot of fun with it. But when the things you need on defense, you need a rush end that creates havoc and need a lockdown corner. And Myjai Sanders is a first-team All-American. Pro Football Focus had him as the number 5 overall player in college football for this season. So when you've got those two things and you've got experience along the defensive line, you've got depth, you've got veteran linebackers, and those things all come together to say, Cincinnati's defense, even without Marcus Freeman, who's at Notre Dame, they bring in Mike Tressel, who's been at Michigan State for 14 years. You've still got a veteran guy, Jim Tressel's nephew, if the name sounds familiar. You've still got a veteran guy that's run some really good defenses at Michigan State. So their defense has a chance to be exceptionally good if they continue the path that they've been on.
Chad, you mentioned the offense expected to take a big step forward this year, and the defense obviously is elite. Is there a weak point to the Cincinnati football team? What would you say the weakest point of the football team would be? What position?
Two things. They had to replace both of their tackles. One of them, James Hudson, was drafted in the 3rd round by the Cleveland Browns. He was, your all-conference performer at left tackle. And then Darius Harper, their starting right tackle, also graduated. So you've got bookends that you've got to replace on that offensive line. And if you go back to 2019, Desmond Ridder really struggled when they didn't have good tackle play. So they're going to need to, they've got a redshirt freshman and a redshirt sophomore that are taking over the 2 tackle spots. If they hold up, the offense is going to be elite. But we won't know that until we see them out there, and it's really hard to judge how they look in camp because they're just getting beat like a drum by Myjai Sanders every day.
We have a question.
The one other area that I would keep in mind here is punter. James Smith was, first team all conference for 4 years. He was a finalist for, the best punter in the NCAA a couple times. They've got a true freshman punter. They went back to Australia to get a true freshman punter. Can he, carry on the torch from James Smith? Because as you guys learned a couple times, like James Smith had the ability to change games and change field position with his legs. So that is a strength that is, like tackle, is now a question mark.
All right, Johnny Gardner, Thompson, one of our super fans. How did you end up at Marshall as a student? He wants to know, Chad. Inquiring minds want to know.
So at the time in the mid-'90s, sports broadcasting or, the sports media side of things was not really something you could major in. It really, other than, I found 2 places basically on the broadcast side of it. Journalism, Northwestern obviously is very big, but Syracuse and Marshall were really the only 2 places you could go and major in sports broadcasting. And, I was at 17 years old. I walked onto campus at Marshall, started immediately at the college radio station. I had a half-hour radio show every week with Billy Donovan, who was Marshall's head basketball coach at the time. I was the sideline reporter for Marshall football games with Chad Pennington as a starting quarterback, and eventually Randy Moss. And it was just a situation that allowed a lot of great opportunities, even at a young age, to start finding my way in this business. And I didn't have to go live in Syracuse. So that's how I ended up at Marshall.
There you go. So there you have it. Thank you, Johnny Gardner, for that. So we're going to ask you that tough question, Chad Brendel. Do the Bearcats finally break the door down and make it to the playoff?
Here's where, and I'm going to take a lot of heat for this when we do our season preview next week. It is very hard to predict a team going to a place, especially with Tom Allen and the way that they've got Indiana rolling, for a team to go in consecutive games. They've got a bye week in between, but in consecutive games to go at Indiana and win and then go to Notre Dame and win, it's just such a gauntlet. And then you've got UCF at home 2 weeks after that. The odds are that they probably lose one. And if they lose one, I think it's going to be really difficult to crack the old boy network and have them invite you into their club. I think it's going to be hard even if they go 12-0, like we talked about at the beginning, because they'll try to find ways to tear you down, even if you do everything that's asked of you. I want to say 12-0, but my brain stops me and says probably more like 11-1.
Well, so does a 11-1 Cincinnati? That's going to be. So what you're saying is that's going to be difficult to sell 11-1 and a little bit better to sell the 12-0.
Yeah, just because if you beat Notre Dame and Indiana on the road, you've put yourself in a position to say, look, we competed with a team that's competitive, at the top of the Big Ten. We competed with Notre Dame, who's been in the playoff 2 of the last 3 years. You're going to earn the benefit of the doubt if you can go win both of those games. I'd love to see him do it. My brain wants to stop me. I've got a week before we do our show next Thursday where we do our schedule preview. But right now I'm probably at 11-1.
So AT, what he's saying is my scenario, the Pirates are going to go to a bowl by beating Cincinnati, and we're going to spoil the season. I'm just joking.
We'll see. I'd love to be in that position, but you're right that you have 2 ways to go in these early 3 games for Cincinnati. If you by some means are able to pick off all 3 of those wins, going into the season ranked by many in the top 10, then you're really in the catbird seat. But heavy is the head that wears the crown, as they say, as some of us know. But it's just you're in a great position. I know, Chad, you want to hedge your bet there, but my money's on Cincinnati really making a run. I mean, I guess we'll get called to the carpet on that in the first after game 2 or 3. We'll see, because I appreciate what you're saying. Because you're kind of in this silo, looking at it so closely. But Notre Dame's coming at it with trying to figure out new leadership on offense. Yeah, and Cincinnati is, and UCF is trying to figure out an entire new coaching staff and re-engineer the way they do things. If you get past Indiana, I like Cincinnati's opportunities here in the first month.
Alan, the crazy thing is I'm almost leaning towards Indiana being that more dangerous opponent, because I think they are vastly underrated on defense. They've got a very good defensive line. They've got a stud cornerback. They've got a good system that they've been in for multiple years now. And then you've got Michael Penix and Jordan Freifogel on offense that can really splash a big play on you. Yeah. The Notre Dame game, though, I mean, Brian Kelly, Marcus Freeman, Mike Mickens, who was an All-American at Cincinnati, was Cincinnati's cornerback coach when Brian Kelly hired him to be the cornerbacks coach at Notre Dame. Mike Denbrock, Cincinnati's offensive coordinator, was the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. There's so many great storylines that Notre Dame game is going to be wild.
Well, we all know every year they hand Notre Dame the national championship trophy and somebody else has to take it away from them. So that's kind of how college football works every year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we let you go, how can people find your work? And of course,
I got one more question for Chad real fast.
Oh, okay.
Right. Chad, do we know? Do we know at this point who the officials are for the Notre Dame game? Are they going to be American officials, ACC officials, or what?
My understanding is they're going to be American officials, but that doesn't make me feel any better about anything.
I got you.
Our experience has been the same. Ask Tulsa.
Yeah, exactly.
Good Lord.
Well, Chad, how do people find your work? We appreciate you as always, man, coming on, and you spent a long time with us tonight. And how can people find the work? And we'll see how Cincinnati does here in 21.
You can find me on Twitter at Chad Brendel. You can find Bearcat Journal at Bearcat Journal, and then you can find us at BearcatJournal.com for all the coverage. We've had a great offseason, and we're looking forward to cranking up the network as things get rolling here through the season. And thanks as always to you guys for having me on.
You're awesome, man. Appreciate you very much. And hey, when you come down here, AT and I will take you out and get you some barbecue, man.
Guarantee it. We got you covered.
All right,
Appreciate
man.
it, guys.
Have a good one. All right, bye-bye. All right, guys. AT, welcome to the team, man. We're so happy to have you aboard with us tonight, and looking forward to have you on with Pirate coverage of, I don't know, whatever sport. If it's Tiddlywinks, I'm sure AT will have a comment about it.
You better count on it. I'm just excited to be on the same board with Kyle, man. I love Kyle. We've been on this thing for a long time, and he has such a wealth of knowledge. So it's just fun. It took a couple of years off, really focused on a lot of things we were doing family-wise and business-wise, but I just can't stay away. I'm just so excited about what we're doing. For the first time in a long time, we have real stability, in athletics with our football program and baseball, and arguably trying to get there in basketball and good leadership. And we got a long ways to go, but to do that, you look at the architecture of what Cincinnati looked like a few years ago, or Memphis, or some of these programs. And, it can't be a shotgun approach. We've got to have a very strategic, very focused strategy on what it takes to be successful. We've got people committed to make it happen. That's what was so awesome yesterday at the Pirate Club luncheon, to see, close to 400, almost 500 people. They're excited about Pirate football here in a couple of weeks. And you could just see it in the eyes of our guys coaching. For the first time, they trust guys beyond first teamers that can step out there and play ball. And this really bizarre environment we have now, where kids can just show up on campus and just start. DJ Ford is a stud. Met him earlier this year around May on a flight, of all places, from Florida back here. I guess he's from somewhere, parts unknown, in Alabama. Just the greatest kid of all. Saw my ECU logo on my shirt in the airport in Florida. Just came up and said, "Excuse me, sir, are you a Pirate?" And I, from Greenville, and struck up a good friendship with him. We've got some real talented kids, but so does this entire league. It's every game for us is going to be a dogfight.
Yep.
You just want to be able to have a chance to win every one of them. And Dave and Kyle, I feel like we're in the position that every Saturday, in the right circumstance, regardless of who we're playing, we're going to be in a position to do some damage.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying all the off season, Alan. I think the record is going to be kind of the way the chips fall. I could see us winning 7 games, or I could see us winning 4 games. But what I can guarantee you, there's going to be a lot of close games. And there's probably going to be a lot of Saturdays we walk out this year heartbroken, and there's going to be a lot of Saturdays we're walking out with our chest pounding because we just squeaked away with a field goal win or something like that. It's going to be an exciting season. You just hope you get more wins than losses, or at least break even. I was analyzing the league, and a lot of people think South Florida Temple's the bottom of the league this year. But really, how bad are they going to be? I mean, Temple up until last year, and they had a lot of problems with COVID last year, had been a good program no matter who the head coach was. They just kept it rolling. South Florida, obviously, first-year head coach last year. This is going to be his second year. What kind of step will they take forward? I mean, so there, now with Connecticut out of the league, there is no gimme win. No. So the Pirates, I think we will be dramatically improved. But was it going to show up on the win and in the win-loss column? Hopefully, I'm shooting for 6. Just get back to a bowl. But who knows? Going into week 1 against Appalachian, anything could happen in that game, and it wouldn't surprise me. About the only thing that would surprise me is if we blew them out. They may beat us convincingly. We may win a close one. They may win a close one. None of that would surprise me.
That's all true, and I think, and it's something that was touched on Monday in the luncheon was, who's going to kick for us? Jake Verity is about to make a lot of money for somebody. Maybe the Panthers need to get his number, and he's not going to be the full-on guy for the Ravens, but we're going to miss that guy. You got young kickers. We have talented legs here, but we all know kickers are weird. They're weird, man. They get in a funk. They're either on or off, and we've got some talented young guys. We got some depth with good legs, but in a season where probably 4 to 5 games may be decided under pressure situations, we just took for granted a Jake Verity, even when we were struggling. That may be the difference. If we have a solid leg that really materializes here in the first couple of weeks and proves ourselves, I mean, then we may have a cause for optimism. But that's the one area I think of all the things we're talking about, just having stability in the kicking game is going to be really key early in the year.
And AT, by the way, tonight is right after the practice, Coach Houston announced that Owen Dapper will be the place kicker. So Owen Dapper is going to be the place kicker. I don't know about kicking off specialist, but you got 3 great legs, so they're going to use him as the place kicker, and then one of the other 2 guys will be there. You talk about special teams. You've got 2 great punters. The special teams is something that you're right, Alan. That's going to be a huge side of the ball, as Ruff used to talk about. 3 sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And that special teams might be the difference in winning and losing.
It really may be, and some good questions were asked, in the luncheon as well, and some astute fan bases. And are we going to allow Holton Ahlers to run this year? That was question number 1. And Ritter, great example. Just talking with Chad, and you got to make teams play 11 on 11, or at least make them think they are, and put stress on them. But that all comes with, can you block up front? Do you have some tight ends that can take some pressure off? And there are still more unanswered questions than answered, with this team on both sides of the ball. But it's good to see the cautious optimism of a staff that, I saw a good saying today, which I really loved. It's a Nick Saban, kind of a mantra is, you don't practice and do things until you finally get it right. You practice and do things till you finally don't get it wrong. And that's Saban's approach. And we're starting to get some, guys in the position that on first, second, and third that we can count on. But hold on to your seats. That's all I got to say. Put your seatbelt on, strap it on, because this first month is just going to be phenomenal. It's going to fly by. We're going to look up and we could be 3-0. We could be whatever, but it's going to be exciting as hell. That's all I know.
Yeah, I hate the word. Talking about the first month, I hate where the Marshall game lands.
Oh,
because
man.
if you're 2-0 and you upset App and you upset South Carolina and you're riding high, then what do you got to do? You got to go on the road and play Marshall. If you're 0-2, you lost App, you lost to South Carolina, you desperately need a win. You got to go on the road and play Marshall. So I hate where that game lands. You hope to God we're not in need of a win. Well, you're going to need a win. You want to win every damn game. But you hope you're not 0-2 and having to go in that game. I do not like Marshall's new head coach. Some of their staff I liked, some of it I didn't. We interviewed the guy. He definitely ain't a Scotty Montgomery, but he didn't come across as a Mike Houston either. I'd be interested to see how things play out there with him. It was a weird hire to me. But that game, I really, if there was one game that on our schedule that I could change the date, it would be that Marshall game. I wish we were playing them somewhere else on the schedule than game 3.
Yeah, that was one game last year that I didn't complain when we ended up not having that contest, because after watching Marshall and what they're able to do and so much of that talent coming back. But you're right. Hey, new staffs come in and new coaches, and some come in and never miss a beat. It's been phenomenal to watch, to see, what some of these, like Appalachian's a great example. You think of a program like that you're only going to have a hit every few years and have a miss, the other 4 or 5 years. But, their staffs have come in and been a part of their culture. So we don't know whether this is as you said, this seems to be kind of a counterculture hire for Marshall. But at the end of the day, we're going to, for 2 very physical games, South Carolina, regardless of how talented or not they are, we saw they got a grad assistant. They put a strap of jersey and a helmet on him, told him to play quarterback here over the past couple of weeks. That tells you their situation. But we know they're SEC physical. So these first couple of weeks are really good. For me, I would define them as very physical contests for us. For us, it's about attrition. Are we healthy when we go to Marshall and in the position to be able to keep this thing rolling?
Yeah, if you look at the South Carolina game, one thing I really like is that we open with App State, they open with Eastern Illinois. We're going to know a lot about ourselves after week 1. They're not going to know very much. And brand new staff, a lot of new pieces of the puzzle down in Columbia, trying to learn things. Then they got to come on the road to play East Carolina, an experienced football team that will, like I said, we're going to know a lot about ourselves after week 1. I really like the way that South Carolina game sets up. I wish it was at night, but it's at noon, and history will show we have a pretty good track record of pulling off upsets in noon games. So
we do, and hey, we're on a 2-game winning streak. Let's keep this thing going. I'd like to get up to 5 or 6 games in a row, but you're right. I mean, the season starts off, but it is what it is. That's what we're dealt. In the season, keeping our guys healthy, keeping everybody qualified and on the, on the field, and is there's so many other factors that we know that are out there. But coaching staff are taking all the steps to be ready for it, guys. And I talked to Holton yesterday and DJ as well, and they just can't wait. They're tired of hitting each other. They're just so ready to step out and show off some new weapons. And we've got some guys that have transformed their bodies. I know we've all read about it, this summer, and I'm ready for CJ and Johnson and some of these guys to come out on the, and stretch the field a little bit. And Odie and these guys are really, put some pressure on some defenses. And it's
Terry Gallagher, friend of the podcast, former East Carolina wide receiver in the Pat Dye era, pointed out something to me a few months ago, and it's hard to believe. This is year number 3 for CJ Johnson. This was his first spring ball. Now, you ask yourself, how is that possible? He played as a true freshman, wasn't here in the spring. There was no spring ball last year. So going into his 3rd year of playing, this is the first time he's had the chance to experience spring practice and a full off season.
Yeah, and hopefully some emotional maturity there as well. He was someone that defenses, the scouting report on CJ is you could easily get under his skin, and kind of get him off his game. But for CJ, it's kind of a double-edged sword. He feeds off that emotion. That's why he averaged, 20-some yards per catch or whatever it was last year. But his numbers were way down. But, he talked
a lot of
about
pass interference penalties. He drew about 15 pass interference penalties. So.
Yeah, and they were dialed in on him. And there's a reason that the young Mr. Prohl knew he needed to go pro this year. He was not going to ever get the numbers that he got beyond what he got this past year because of so much focus, on CJ as being such a threat. But him kind of physically, slimming down a little bit, but keeping that, he's a Steve Smith type guy for us, that emotional, but he's got to be able to channel that. He has a real chance to be a real leader on this team. I really look. If you're looking for a sounding board on offense, for me, it's really CJ. We can talk about Rajay and and all the great guys we have at running back and so many other positions, but for me, a real sounding board for us is what does CJ do this year? I think it really is going to be key for us. And then obviously on defense, the backside, we got some guys that it's a chance for them to really make a name for themselves and take their career to the next level.
And not only that, not only CJ, I think. What other receivers are going to step up besides Snead? Will Audie Amatasho step up?
Yeah.
Who's going to be those other guys out there at wide receiver? The tight end room is full of talent. What's going to happen there? There's a lot of questions to be answered, but there are pieces. That's the good thing is who's going to step up, not, oh God, who do we have to step up? There's pieces there now, as we talked about. AT, I wanted to switch gears for just a minute. I don't know how much more time you have, but I wanted to get your thoughts on name, image, and likeness.
Say that again. Sorry, I lost you, Kyle. Say that again.
What are your thoughts on name, image, and likeness?
Oh, yeah, man. So, I've talked to I talked to Bill Johnson about this a few weeks ago. Some of you guys know Bill, East Carolina guy, just the super agent, all the guys he's brought through the league. And it really is my challenge with it is it's just such a gray area for what it does to programs. What ultimately happens between all the athletes on the in the program, those that haves and the have-nots, and it's one of those situations where litigation is tied the hands, I guess, in many ways, and we're going to have to see this thing play out. I hope that this is an evolving process. I don't know that it goes away, guys. I think it's probably going to be in some way be a part of the game for a while. So we need to learn how that's going to be managed. I don't like it in its current form, and I don't mind saying that. I understand the ability for folks to be able to, if they're going to be used for the program, and we also, there's scholarships and so much of that where we provide value around that for a lot of these guys. But I think it's going to be a very raw 12 to 24 months on NIL. And I think it's going to look very different, in my opinion, in a couple of years, Kyle. But you may agree or have different thoughts on it.
I agree with you 100%. I was talking to Charles Arbuckle about a week ago here on the podcast, and we kind of had the same idea. I'd like to see whatever money they make, the kids make, maybe give them 30% now and then put the other 70% in annuity, and they get it when they're done with school. and
Yeah.
that's not predicated on graduating. It's just when they're done with school, it's their money. But I think it's dangerous for a lot of kids come from poor backgrounds, 18, 19 years old, and suddenly, you're not even given, in some cases, these Power 5 schools, not even $4, $5, $10,000. You got some kids, like the quarterback of Alabama, is a millionaire. So to me, that's dangerous for an 18, 19-year-old kid that's not used to having money to have that kind of money. He's going to blow it. So I'd really like to see a situation where they're given a percentage and the rest is put in an annuity. You get it when you're done with school or when you move on.
Well, hey, free money plus the ability to leave any program at any time to go to another program. I think right now we've got the perfect storm for a lot of volatility in college athletics. But that's the game we're playing in right now. That's why you saw a number of especially basketball coaches, just say, hey, that's it. It's the end of an era. A new era is beginning. It doesn't really fit our culture. So I really am hoping and praying and leaning towards all this having an evolutionary process, and within 2 years or so, there's some stability. But right now, we're seeing probably the rawest version of semi-pro sports, basically under the veil of college athletics, that hopefully we'll see for our lifetime.
Hey, ET, want to get your thoughts on conference realignment? You see East Carolina. You actually have been a trustee at East Carolina. You've been a mayor of Greenville. You're a Pirate through and through. Does East Carolina get the chance of the table? Meaning, we've been talking, as you may have heard on this show and many other shows, of a merger between the Big 12 and American. That makes the most sense for both leagues. But what are your thoughts for East Carolina?
Well, we saw the announcement today with the Big 10 and the Pac, whatever they are, Pac 12, Pac 30, or whatever they are, and the ACC, a handshake, alignment about games and future contests, multiple sports, and what that screams to me with the Big 12 not in that was the loudest thing that I got from today's announcement, knowing that they definitely solicited to be a part of all this. I'm not sure about the Big 12's future. I don't know what they really have to provide. I mean, do they all of a sudden be still part of a Power 5 or Power 4, or whatever we want to call it, by adding Memphis or adding Houston? No, they can't demand that kind of money. I think, in my opinion, and everybody's got an opinion, I think the Big 12 is on borrowed time. I think at some point they're either going to go down a tier, or there's going to have to be some type of mega merger between these two leagues. That's the only thing that's going to work to be able to make it happen. And I think we're in a league right now which is trending up in multiple sports. And ultimately, if we're carried to higher ground, it's be because we stay put in this league and it evolves into something else.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alan. I think some egos need to be in check for some of those Big 12 schools. If they want to maintain autonomy, to me, the only way, like you said, if those 8 stay together, if nobody takes any of those 8, so you got the 8 leftovers. If they add UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, Memphis, and go to 12, they may get $14 or $15 million per team for their TV deal. They're getting $20 million now. The Americans getting around $7 million. So yeah, it would be a slight increase, but they're not going to maintain autonomy status or power status. To me, the only way to do that is to merge with the American. I think you need to be creative. I mentioned even doing a 20-team league, bringing in BYU. The other option, I think, would be you take your 10 all-sports members of the American minus Navy, football only, Wichita State, basketball, and those 8, and you form an 18-team league. I think that league would be a power league. I don't think you could argue that it wouldn't. And I think that is the best option. Whether they'll do it or not, who knows? And will Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, will they stay put if those 8 stay together and they get invites? Will they say, nope, we're staying, you guys come here? My hunch is no, because everybody looks out for themselves. But it sure would be nice if some egos could be dropped right now and Mike Oresco and Bob Bowlesby could get in a room together, have a conversation, even if it's using the Big 12 branding. Big 12 survives. We all go merge with them. Suddenly we're members of the Big 12. That's fine with me. Mike Oresco might disagree with that. He might be out of a job. But, to me at this point, it's all about egos. I mentioned earlier on the podcast, Alan, Dave Wanstedt, former Pitt head coach, former NFL head coach, and current Fox analyst, claims he has inside information that West Virginia is going to get the ACC invite. The Big Ten is going to go ahead and take Iowa State and Kansas, and the Pac-12 is going to take Kansas State and Oklahoma State. Dave Wanstedt, as I said earlier, is a half an idiot, so I wouldn't put too much stock into it.
It's if you're looking for drama and soap opera, I mean, you're definitely, the game outside of the game. You're going to see it this year, and I guess the villain for some is ESPN kind of hanging there in the background, but for us, that's not a villain. That's an esteemed partner. And at the end of the day, much of the battlefield has been established. The SEC is clearly established their territory. You saw 3 leagues today, as I said, if not anything else, established who was not a part of what's left. And so then you look at that next tier of teams, have got to make a decision. Sure, with the Big Ten pulling Kansas maybe, or a couple of these programs, that could very likely happen. Would not be surprised at all.
It would actually be better for us.
At some point, what's left of the Big 12 is going to look around and decide that they ain't as sexy as they were a year ago, and they might have that Toby Keith thing, that however that song goes, and we all join together and be as better as we ever were. Right? It might be the best way to roll.
Yeah, and I actually think
they got wrinkles now, right?
Yeah,
I actually think that the best chance for that to happen would be for the Big Ten to go ahead and take a Kansas and an Iowa State.
That would end it. That would end it. Coup de grace. That would be. And I know Oklahoma State is just has such deep pockets and can probably buy their way into some other league. They definitely don't have the market, but a lot of ways they can pitch it. But if they're sitting there, if they lose one more team, 1 or 2, then I think it's a foregone conclusion what happens. And our buddies from ESPN would love to put a super league together. So
no doubt about it. And thank you so much, AT, for being with us tonight. We're looking forward to having you. We have football, we have basketball, baseball, tiddlywinks, whatever you, Monopoly, Fortnite, whatever you, if it's EC related, I know you'll be with us. And looking forward. In fact, we're having Ryan Robinson on the show. We've got that confirmed now from our great Bubba Rosenbaum. He's at a Intimidators game tonight in Kannapolis. That's why he's not on with us.
Cannonballers, no longer the Intimidators.
That's right, Cannonballers.
That's right.
Yeah. Then also want to remind everybody on Tuesday night we have our Pirate preview for App State with Kevin Monroe, and also Appalachian State play-by-play voice Adam Whitten. And then on, I guess it's Thursday night, to be determined, we'll have our Pirate football playback with us and AT. So that'll be that's going to be a lot of fun. Week 1, we'll know a lot about the Pirates, as you said.
Oh, that's so much fun. The chance to talk after game 1 and hey, we're either going to be a gnashing of teeth or there's going to be excitement. I think, Kyle, you summed it up well. A number of things could happen. Let's hope the one you said that would be the biggest shocker happens. But I look forward to really talking about the game inside the game after that Thursday and what we've learned and what we'll take forward back to Dowdy Ficklin for that first exciting home game against the old Gamecocks, finally paying what's due, showing up here in Greenville, North Carolina like they were supposed to years ago.
And they tell you you haven't had a chance to experience me after a game not cussing and yelling for anybody to get fired. So that'll be new for you. I don't have to yell for Jeff Confer or Cecil Staten or Scotty Montgomery to be shown the door. So you'll get a whole new experience of me post game.
Look forward to it, brother. It's going to be great. Everybody better buckle up. It's going to be an interesting year.
AT, we have a kinder, gentler Kyle Barber for you. I don't know if it's neutered is the right word. Is that too strong, Kyle?
You're damn right that's too strong.
He's still all testosteroned up. He's good to go. He's ready for the year.
Ready to cut a promo like wrestling for sure. AT, thanks so much, buddy. We'll look forward to having you on in a week. And,
thanks so much, Jay.
Appreciate you, buddy. All right.
See you guys.
Go Pirates. All right. AT on with us, and we'll have him on all season long. Appreciate him very much. Appreciate Bubba. Appreciate you very much behind the scenes tonight. We'll have you back on Thursday night. Again, we'll have Ryan Robinson, and we'll appreciate all that Ryan's done for the show too. And we'll see you guys very soon. Got a lot of great content. And by the way, Kyle, before we go, want to remind fans.
Yeah, season ticket giveaway.
Yes, do that for me.
Yeah, you need to go on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Screenshot it, and either email it to what's the email, Dave?
It's thesportsobj@gmail.com.
Or go on our Facebook page. There's a pinned thread on our Facebook page. Post your screenshot there that you liked our YouTube channel, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Easy for me to get right. There you go. Subscription.
All right.
Directions are on the screen, and you can win two. Count them, 2 season tickets to Pirate football.
No doubt about it, and that's going to be a great giveaway. We're giving away that on August the 31st. Cannot wait to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And, folks, it's going to be a great season. Get on the Mike Houston bandwagon. This is the year. And speaking of Mike Houston, we have our post-practice with Mike Houston. We'll have the audio and video up for you.
Yeah, and by the way, our listeners, tell your friends about the giveaway. You may not need those season tickets, but you probably know somebody that does. Get the word out that they're being given away. So, let's get them in the hands of somebody that needs them.
All right. Appreciate Chad Brendel of 247 Sports for the Bearcat Journal for Cincinnati. We had Alan Thomas, our new partner here, new teammate, if you will. Bubba Rosenbaum, thank you, buddy, for behind the scenes producing tonight. Kyle Barber, appreciate you, dude. And I'm Dave Richmond. Until next time, you've been watching and listening to The Sports Objective. Good night, everybody, and go Pirates.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? This is Udon Cheek, assistant track and field coach at East Carolina University. You are plugged into the Sports Objective podcast. If you are a fan, you are plugged into the right place. And if you're really a fan, you will share that link. My heart is purple and gold. I'm a pirate down to my soul. And I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode. Boom!